Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel, and on today's video we are going to talk about overcoming imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? What are some causes of imposter syndrome, and how could you overcome imposter syndrome? So if you stay tuned in this video and watch it to the end, you are going to get the answers. With me here, I have some special intellectuals who we are going to answer those questions with. Please allow me to introduce to you Mr. Alan Lenga and Mr. William Chika. Getting started, we'll go straight into the point. How would you define imposter syndrome? I'll start with Mr. Alan.
Well, thank you so very much. I think, imposter syndrome, this is a very serious, subject matter that needs to be addressed, especially, at a time like this. We're at a time where a lot of young people have been faced with this issue of imposter syndrome. Now, the question is, what is imposter syndrome? From the onset, I should indicate that, imposter syndrome is something that has to do with the mindset. It's something which is behavioral. So, in the simplest of ways, imposter syndrome, this is the belief that comes with self-doubt, that emanates from the incompetences of, doing certain things. For instance, a person, has attained some level of education, has attained some, level of skill, but that failure to believe in yourself is what entails, or rather what that defines imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome in simpler words is, self-doubt.
Yes. Really interesting. Mr. William, how would you define imposter syndrome in your context?
Thank you very much, Maureen. And I think Mr. Alani has brought out a very significant point concerning the definition of imposter syndrome. And in my own understanding and terms, I think I'll start from defining who an imposter is.
Yes.
And you find that according to the dictionary, it describes an imposter as someone who pretends to be someone else. So in us as students, in as much as someone who is in university, who is in school, imposter syndrome is a feeling which is characterized by having self-doubt. Aside from having self-doubt, it's a feeling that comes with the ability of wanting to be a perfectionist in whatever you are doing. You just want to be perfect. You are not like accepting failure, someone who can't accept failure, and also someone who is constantly comparing themselves to others. Like me, I'm trying to compare myself to you, or like I want to achieve certain things, but I'm trying to compare my achievement to Owen or to Alan. Yes. But we all have different abilities. Yeah. So I find that imposter syndrome will attack me. Why? Because I'm trying to compare my success or my abilities to you guys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Even in the workplace, you find that when you go into the industry, you start comparing yourself to those people you found in the industry. You experience imposter syndrome because what those people can do, you can't do it. So you have that low self-esteem.
Yeah.
That's how I can say imposter syndrome is.
Wow. That's really interesting. So we are just saying imposter syndrome is having some sort of self-doubt in yourself, despite you having that ability to perform well.
Yes,
exactly. Well, and I think you also mentioned something that has captured my attention. You're talking of self-doubt. Imposter syndrome is more like having self-doubt, and I think in other terms you can define it as maybe just not feeling good enough. Like the effort that you're putting in, you're feeling like it's not good enough, despite you putting in the best effort, but you're still feeling like it's not good enough. Maybe let's give an example. You in school, right? You have your CA. You're making your CA.
Yes.
You have your test one. You really had to study hard. You get maybe everything, or maybe literally everything, or maybe 90% in your test one. Your test two, you get everything. Then in your test three, despite you putting in that effort, you get some bad results, or maybe get to feel like what you're doing is not enough. So I feel that is what imposter syndrome is, right? Yeah. What are some causes of imposter syndrome in your own perspective? Maybe let's get it from the bottom line as students. What do you feel are the causes of imposter syndrome for a student? I will start with Mr. Alan.
Okay, well, I'll try by all measures just to, to be simplistic as I can.
Yeah.
There are various, causes of, imposter syndrome. And one of the causes of imposter syndrome is the failure to, master yourself. failure to master yourself as a person, it's inevitable that you'll be subjected to imposter syndrome. And another point that I should, emphasize on the various causes of imposter syndrome is, that, failure to believe in yourself. This is very critical. So if, myself, Alan Blenga, I'm doing international relations and development.
Yeah.
So failure to believe in myself that, probably one of the days I maybe, become, a prominent, diplomat to this country. So if I tend, not to believe in myself, then imposter syndrome is inevitable for me to catch up with me. So one of the various causes of imposter syndrome is failure to believe in yourself. And then secondly, we should also be very quick to mention the aspect of failure to master ourselves. So self-belief, failure to believe in ourselves, and failure to master our emotions. Imposter syndrome is inevitable.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So just to add on what my brother Alan has stated, some notable causes of imposter syndrome I can add is the ability of comparing yourself to others, because you find that we all have different abilities, and the way Alan handles certain things or the way Alan comprehends certain things is not the way I comprehend certain things. So if you find that me and Alan, we are both friends, but we have different abilities. So if I am comparing myself to Alan, like, okay, I want to speak the way Alan speaks, I want to talk the way Alan talks, but Alan has got some abilities which makes him to be unique from me. But if I'm comparing myself to Alan, I'll have that low self-esteem, like I'm not good enough. I won't feel like as if I'm good. So comparison is one of the causes of imposter syndrome. And another, aside from comparison, I can talk of setting unrealistic goals. Because you find that imposter syndrome is caused by failure. Let's say I myself, I set a target that, okay, this semester I want to clear with straight A pluses.
Yeah.
And then you find that goal I have set for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not doing like the things that I need to do, but I'm telling people that, okay, I want to clear with straight A's. I want to clear with straight A pluses, but I'm not doing what is required of me to achieve that. You find that when I fail, maybe I'll start pretending that, oh, I got A pluses because I already mentioned to people that I want to get A pluses. So comparison and also setting unrealistic goals are some of the notable causes of imposter syndrome.
Wow. I'm really loving this, huh? I'm loving this. So I think I've just noted some 2 points that you guys have mentioned. I've talked about, just to narrow it down, Mr. William, you said being different from others, right? So that is like being different from your peers, the people who you're surrounding yourself with. If you're feeling different, that might cause imposter syndrome. Yeah. Okay. Then just to ask, can you consider anxiety to cause imposter syndrome?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, anxiety is one of the causes.
Yeah.
Because imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Okay. Besides that, we are in a technological world, and everything is now online. Is social media. I feel social media also cause exactly. Social media because you see someone on Facebook or something posting their achievements, posting their success and all that, then you get to feel like you're not doing. You get to feel like, what am I doing in my life? Why am I not happy? So I feel social media is also one of the aspects that causes imposter syndrome. Yeah. Well, moving on. Okay, just still on the causes. How do you tell, or what can be some causes? Yeah, let's put it in a workplace. Upon graduating in a workplace, what can be some causes in the workplace? Like you're just a new graduate, you just got hired by this employee, then by this employer, sorry. Then how would you define some causes of imposter syndrome?
Okay, on that one, maybe I can go first.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so just for a fresh graduate to go into employment, I think one of the leading factors to imposter syndrome, you find that someone might not be maybe well informed. Like the time we were in university, we are supposed to prepare ourselves for the industry.
Yeah.
So there are certain things you need to equip yourself with.
Yeah.
It's a certain kind of information you need to have in your mind, so that you prepare yourself well for that job you are going for. So now you find that when you go there, minus putting in, acquiring the necessary skills that you are required to have in order for you to perform at your best when you go into that employment, you find that that person will fail to do their level best. Why? Because they have not prepared themselves well.
Yeah.
And another thing from that, you find that going into the industry, you find people who have already been there. You find people who have experience over you. You shouldn't take those people as your competition.
Yeah.
As a fresh graduate, what the mindset you need to have, I'm going to learn. Because you find that what you are learning in school is kind of different with the things you find in the industry. So when you go with that mentality of competition, you find that it will be hard for you. Why? Because you are trying to compete with the people who have experience over you.
Yeah.
And instead of you going with an attitude of trying to learn from those people, you'll be trying to compare and to compete with those people. At the end of the day, you start doubting your abilities because you can't perform as those people you have found in the employment. Maybe that's what I can add. I can hand over to my brother.
Okay, well, I think Mr. William was, touched on a very key, aspect of, competition.
Yeah.
I think in an era as this, especially in the 21st century, we should, come to the realization that, people are no longer supposed to be competing but collaborating.
Yeah.
I think at the time, as this, we need to embrace this aspect of, collaborations as opposed to competition. It's so disastrous and dangerous for us to be competing with people who've gone ahead of us. Instead, we have to position ourselves as students to those people and learn from them. Mostly, and one of the fundamental, factors that are causing young people and fresh, graduates to be subjected to, imposter syndrome is this aspect of, wanting to acquire a certain status, within a short space of time. This is very, very disastrous and deadly. We need to, position ourselves as students, as learners, if we are going to penetrate, the industry. If we are going to, to rise to greater heights, we have to ensure that we position ourselves as, learners, and ensure that we collaborate with people who've gone ahead of us, so that we are able to acquire skills that those people have acquired within a short space of time, as opposed to competing with them.
Yeah.
Just come to think of it, why should I be comparing my chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 50? That's disastrous.
Yeah.
So as opposed to me probably falling short of such things, I have to position myself as a student to those people who've gone ahead of me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. That is really some good insights that you guys have shared. And talking of some symptoms, I think I've highlighted some symptoms of imposter syndrome. I feel like based on what we've what you guys have shared, I feel trying to be perfect can cause imposter syndrome. If you're trying to be perfect in a very short period of time, it can cause imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing is over preparing, like overestimating yourself. Like Mr. William mentioned, you want to get A pluses straight up. Of course, you can do that, but how like you are too over prepared, and I'll put it that way. Then fear of failure. Sometimes you get to fear failure, not understanding that failure is also part of learning in the process. So I feel those are some really good insights that you guys have shared. And just moving on, I would like to talk about how we can deal with imposter syndrome. How do you think we can deal with imposter syndrome? Basically, just starting from here, students, starting from the classroom, starting from the lecture. How can you get to deal with imposter syndrome at a personal level?
Should I go first?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. The question is how best somebody can, overcome imposter syndrome, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, I think a lot has been, discussed from this conversation, and Mr. William brought out a very sensitive, point where he said, where he clearly indicated on the aspect of, preparations. I think we need to embrace, this spirit of, preparing ourselves even before the time is due.
Yeah.
For instance, most of us, we have various, ambitions. Most of the students here, maybe probably when they are done with school, they want to join politics. others want to begin, venturing into business and, other things. So one of the various things that we have to consider if we are going to overcome imposter syndrome is the aspect of, preparing ourselves. And also not only that, we also have to, embrace this, spirit of developing ourselves. The personal growth as students is very, very important and inevitable, especially at a time like this. We need to begin, preparing ourselves for the future that we so envision. I can never dream of becoming a president of this Republic of Zambia if I'm not preparing myself before even that time comes. Somebody can never just, dream of becoming a central bank governor minus investing into, his skill set and so on and so forth. So the aspect of preparing ourselves even before the time is due is very, very important if we are to overcome imposter syndrome. Thank you.
Well, my brother Alan has shared some profound points on how we can overcome imposter syndrome. I think I'm just going to add on the points he has shared. One point which grabs my attention is the point for personal development. I think it's something that we need to take serious. How? As students, it's very cardinal and important that in as much as we are in this vicinity, the university, we take time to develop our mindset. Because you find that the imposter syndrome is something which happens in the mind. And in the book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill has talked about how powerful and important the mindset is when it comes to setting someone's character, someone's attitude, someone's personality. So it's very important that we take time to invest in our mind, because imposter syndrome starts in the mind. And if we don't take time to develop our minds, like at this moment, what kind of information am I getting? I think when you shared something about Facebook, even the people we are following on Facebook, the things we are reading, the things we are watching on these social media platforms, they all add to the development of our mindset. So we need to be careful in terms of the things we consume, the things we watch on these social media, the people we follow. So that's one of the main reasons we can use to overcome imposter syndrome. Aside from that, I can talk of preparation. So it's important that in as much as we are trying to make goals, we set realistic goals. I think you said about this. We set realistic goals because we find that when you set unrealistic goals, the chances of failing are high. And when you fail, you are going to have low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is going to lead to imposter syndrome. You start pretending to people that you are an high achiever, but in the actual sense, that person is not achieving what they are talking about. So preparing yourselves, investing in your mindset, like having a positive mentality, like speaking positive about yourself. Even when you face failures, you just have to embrace failure. And my last point I think I can say is we need also to overcome criticism. It's not every time that when someone criticizes us, they are against us. We need to acknowledge that sometimes we should take this criticism in a positive manner. Like when someone criticizes me, to look it in a different perspective. Maybe this person has seen something I'm not seeing. Maybe I need to make something, I need to do something different. What I'm doing is not correct. So we should also need to take criticism in a positive manner.
Wow. That's really interesting, Mr. William and Mr. Alan, what you just shared, and it has ignited something in me where we've talked of being perfect. You don't have to be perfect.
Exactly.
You don't have to be perfect. You should keep in mind that that the quest for knowledge is actually an ending quest, an ending pursuit. So knowledge, you always be acquiring knowledge. It's stage by stage. You just don't get everything at one point. So in as much as you are trying to overcome imposter syndrome, you should bear in mind that you do not have to be perfect. You just have to take a step by step in order for you to achieve whatever that you want to achieve. Just like Mr. Allen said, if you want to become a governor, you need to start taking those steps of you becoming a governor right now. It has to start right now, and the process has to start slow by slow. And I think those are some good points that you mentioned. This is very much an interesting topic, and I feel like we can just keep on going, just discussing and elaborating more about this topic. But due to the interest of time, I would just love to ask one more question to my fellow intellectuals. What do you think, what advice can you give to those people who are graduating maybe this year or any time in any university, what advice would you give them as the best way that they can come up to avoid self-doubt and put self-confidence in themselves, so as to, to help cover up the gap of being a graduate and enter into the corporate world?
To the advice I can give to someone who is preparing themselves to leave the university and go into the industry, first and foremost, you need to be equipped, you need to be skilled, not just like from what we learn in school. You need, let's say, as for me with doing accounting and finance, what skills do I have to know so that I can have that competitive advantage in the industry, so that I can be able to work. Like when I go into the industry, it won't look as if it's someone who doesn't know anything, because you find that there are certain packages you need to know about accounting as a profession. But you find that as students, we're just focusing on whatever we are learning in school, but neglecting what's happening in the industry. Yeah. So that's one thing we need to do. We need to equip ourselves with skills that are applicable in the industry. Secondly, I can say, if it's someone who is having imposter syndrome, you need to recognize that I have this, and then you find ways of tackling it. One way is you connect with friends, like you talk those issues with a friend. Or Alan, I have these challenges and issues which I'm struggling with. Maybe Alan is going to help you overcome those challenges. Aside from that, it's important that as students we need to have mentorship. Because Owen or Alan, it's very much important that us, the way we are seated here, we have people who are ahead with us, whom we are learning from. Because we find that mentorship is very important, especially in this era, where you find that there is speed because of the internet. So having a mentor is one of the best ways as a graduate you can make good success in the industry. So mentorship is also important. I think those are the keywords or key points I can say to someone who is preparing themselves to go into the industry.
Mr. Alan, would you take a shot on that?
Interesting. I think we're waiting on that.
Yes.
Well, I think the advice I can share with the students who are graduating this year or next year, but imposter syndrome is the aspect of positioning themselves and branding them. I think in a tech world, especially at the time like this, I think we need to brand ourselves. You have to position ourselves so formidably that we begin commanding attention as opposed to seeking, attention. We need to brand ourselves. We need to position ourselves for the opportunities that we so wish to attend. I think we need to come to a point whereby we position so well to an extent that opportunities begin chasing after us as opposed to us going out to look for opportunities. So branding and self-position is the key to attaining such a level. So as students, we need to, brand ourselves. We have to formidably position ourselves.
Interesting. Wow. So a quick one, Mr. William, would you give me an example of any imposter syndrome that any instance that you experienced imposter syndrome?
There are many instances.
Yes.
I can't deny that I haven't experienced imposter syndrome. I might say I'm one of those people who set high goals. And you find that it's not always when I set high goals for myself that I achieve those goals. But even when there are those moments where you feel low as a person. Even myself, when I set certain goals and I fail to attain those, I feel that low self-esteem, like, I'm not good enough. Maybe I can't achieve this. I'm not good enough for this. I have those thoughts sometimes. But what matters most is how you handle that. Like if it's failure, you find that for you to be successful in whatever you're doing, you have to experience some certain kind of failures. Because there are certain things you can learn only when you fail. Because you find that even the people you see that they are successful, they are made it in life, the people you look up to, they are at one point in time they failed in their journey. They didn't just go like straight without failing. So when I experience failure, yes, I have those negative thoughts, but I don't dwell on those. Like I have, let's say, low moments, but then I'll come back. Like I encourage myself, positive affirmation. Okay, I'm good. You can do this. And also, it's important to keep track record of our past successes. Like those are going to encourage you. Look, where you're coming from. You did this, you have achieved this, look how far you have come.
Yeah.
So if you're able to achieve this, even this failure is just a step that you can overcome it. That's how I deal with self-doubt and imposter syndrome. I just like positive affirmation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, interesting. I think Mr. William has highlighted a number of things.
Yeah.
Now, let me also, cite a moment where I struggled with imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I attended this summit, and this summit was, attended by high-level people.
Yeah.
And I attended this summit, in my capacity as a book writer and author. So now, a lot of people were there were, highly accomplished, men and women. And I was there, just a guy from, Chingola, a town which is not well developed. So then I began doubting myself, how am I going to, to be aid in this space where we have a lot of highly accomplished men and women. And I came to realize that, I have something that I can offer to these people, which is not, common to them.
Mm-hmm.
So as opposed to dwelling on that, I believed in myself and championed over imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Wow. Here's an imposter syndrome that I just experienced. Okay? So I'd said myself, I've got a test tomorrow, by the way, so I'd said myself to say, I'm going to study for 3 hours straight up. Then I just ended up studying 1 hour. Yes. Do you know how I felt? I felt bad. I felt like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
I've said something and I haven't accomplished it. So I was like, okay. I'd set this goal. I said I'm going to do this, but I haven't accomplished that. So I still kept encouraging myself, and I said, I'll still come back. Let me just go take some rest. I'll come back and study, let me refresh myself, and that is how it's supposed to be. So, Mr. Alan, I heard you talk about the book. You're an author?
Oh, interesting, yes.
Oh, wow. I would love to, just learn more about your book, and the people they are watching out there, they'll also want to know about your book. Would you just mind sharing what you read about?
Oh, wow, interesting. So last year I published my first, book, entitled Becoming an Effective Youth. The book actually is, all about, youth development and personal growth. It's an inspirational book. Yes, it was inspired by this belief of, I come from Chingola. Chingola is not that much developed. Chingola is associated with, Jerabos, things of such.
Yeah.
People believe that, from Copper Belt, from Chingola to be specific, we can't produce somebody who's an intellectual, somebody who can, write books, especially a youth. So it was an inspiration that came, as a solution to the problems that we've been, we have been confronted with. Yes.
Wow. That's really interesting. And how, if someone maybe suppose wants to get that book, have you published enough that people can be able to buy? Where can they find you? What are your LinkedIn details, your Facebook details, so that people can follow you and get more insights on that?
Okay, well, so if somebody wants to purchase, copies of my book, it can be, reached out via my various social media handles. I can be found on LinkedIn. My user is Alan Mlenga on Facebook. My user is Alan Mlenga on Twitter. My user is Mlenga at 3232. So I can be, found on those social media handles.
Wow, that's really good. Mr. William,
Yes, sir.
I'm sure people are inspired from just the speech that you've given here, and they would want to get in contact with you. How they reach you?
Okay, as for me, on Facebook, my user is William Chimeka, and on LinkedIn, I go with the same, which is William Chimeka. Also on Instagram, it's JL William. Those are my users.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. And just to wrap up the story, this is a place to be. This is the creators with Owen and Francis, and this is where you get the best insights about everything and on everything concerning how a graduate can combat the gap of entering into the corporate world. And stay tuned for more videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for staying tuned.